We'll be looking at a review of May, June 2023 IGCSE paper 2 for biology. But before we delve into that, we need to actually understand the papers and how important paper 2 actually is in your grading system in IGCSE. There are three papers that you need to write for your IGCSE biology. Paper 2 is the multiple choice questions for those that are writing extended. Paper 4 is theory. And paper 6 is alternative to practical, or paper 5 is test of practicals. For paper 2, it's 40 questions in 45 minutes, which will be converted to 60 marks. For paper 4, it is for 1 hour 15 minutes, and most times 6 questions, sometimes 7 questions for 1 hour 15 minutes, like I said before, which the mark usually 80 marks that will be converted to 100 marks. While for paper 6 or paper 5 is for 1 hour, and the total mark is 40 marks. And we'll be left like that. That means everything will be totaling 200 marks for the total grading. That shows that paper 6, or paper 2, I mean, constitute 30% of the total mark available for every candidate. Now, looking at the review of this question, for question 1, what are characteristics of all organisms? The right option there is option C, that is excretion and nutrition. Because we have 7 characteristics of living organisms, we can use Mrs. Grain for us to recall. M stands for movement, R is for respiration, S is for sensitivity, G is for growth, the second R is for reproduction, E is for excretion, and N is for nutrition. For question 2, the scientific name for the golden eagle is Aquila crisatus. What is the genus of the golden eagle? Now, for binomial nomenclature, this is a system of naming organisms using 2 names. Bi in science means 2. The first name is the genus, while the second name is the species. And when writing the genus, it usually starts with a capital letter, but other letters will be in lowercase, small letters. Now, for this question, the genus is Aquila, which is option A. Question 3, which row shows the structures that are present in both root hair cells and palisade mesophyll cells? Both root hair cells and palisade mesophyll cells are plant cells, but the only difference between 2 of them is that root hair cell does not have chloroplast because it's found in the roots. And there's no need, the root does not carry out photosynthesis. That means that the right option for question 3 is option C. That means both of them have cell wall, they have cytoplasm, and they have vacuole. For question 4, the photomicrograph shows a plant cell. The length of line XY is 90 millimeters. The actual length of the cell is 30 micrometers. What is the magnification of the photomicrograph? To calculate magnification, we use the formula of image size divided by actual size. But one thing that's very important is that you must make sure that the unit of the values you are given must be the same. You have to convert the unit. And 1,000 micrometers make 1 millimeter. That means if we convert the 90 millimeters to micrometer, it will be 90,000. That means your magnification will be 90,000 micrometers divided by 30 micrometer. And if you divide that, that should give us 3,000. That means the correct option there would be option B. Question 5. The diagram shows an experiment demonstrating osmosis using the dialysis tubing bag. After 30 minutes, the level of the liquid in the glass tube goes dash because the water had a dash water potential than the sugar solution. Now, this question is trying to test the knowledge of osmosis, which can be defined as the movement of water molecules from a region of high water potential to a region of low water potential through a partially permeable membrane. High water potential is outside the glass tubing, while low water potential is inside the glass tubing because it contains sugar solution. And the partially permeable membrane is the dialysis tubing bag. That means water will move from the beaker into the glass tubing or the glass tube. That means the level of water in the glass tube will rise, that will move up because the water has a high water potential. That means the correct option is option D for question 5. For question 6, the diagram shows the movement of glucose molecules across a cell membrane. Which statement describes molecule T? Now, this question is trying to test the knowledge of active transport, which is still under topic 3. And active transport is the movement of molecules from a region of low concentration to region of high concentration against a concentration gradient using energy from respiration. That means it has to move from low concentration to high concentration. Now, in this question, the glucose molecules at the other side, we have 3 here, while at this side, we have about 10. That means it will move from here to here across this molecule. This molecule is a protein molecule that acts as a special channel for the molecules to move through it. That means that the right option for question 6 is option D. For question 7, the diagram shows part of a protein molecule. What does X represent? This question is on biological molecules. The beauty of paper 2 is that the questions are arranged according to the topics in the syllabus. That gives a form of mental stability to be able to follow through the questions the way they are arranged in the syllabus. Now, because this is a protein molecule, which is biological molecules, and the smallest unit of protein is amino acid. That means molecule X will be amino acid. That's option A. For question 8, the structure of DNA involves 2 strands coiled together to form a double helix. Which pairing of bases between the 2 strands is correct? Now, there are 4 bases present in the DNA. The bases are adenine, represented as A, thymine, that's T, guanine, that's G, cytosine, that's C. And adenine must always pair with thymine, and guanine must always pair with cytosine. That means the right option here is option B. The question can come in another format when you be asked to predict the numbers of bases that are present in the DNA molecule. Just note that the number that you have for adenine must be the exact number that you have for thymine, while the number that you have for guanine must be the one that you have for cytosine. That means if you are told that in the DNA molecule we have 30 adenine and total number of bases are 100, we have 100. That means if adenine is 30, thymine also will be 30. 30 plus 30 will give us 60. Then the remaining two bases we have 40, which will be shared 20-20. Please take note of that, please. For question 9, what is true of all enzymes? Now, enzymes are protein molecules that act as biological catalysts that speed up the rate of reactions in living organisms. That means enzymes are not sugars. That negates the first column. And enzymes also work at different pH values depending on the kind of enzyme we are talking about. Like, for example, protease work best in acidic medium, that's a pH of less than 7, and the pH of 1 to 3. Lipase work best in a slightly alkaline medium, while amylase work best in a neutral medium. That means the right option for question 9 is option D. Question 10, which statement about human enzyme is correct when there are temperatures above 80 degrees Celsius? When temperatures get too high for enzymes, because enzymes are protein, they will be denatured. That means the right option for question 10 is option A. For question 11, an experiment is set up to investigate gas exchange in aquatic plants. The hydrogen carbonate indicator solution is orange at the start. What color is it after 3 hours? Now, the hydrogen carbonate indicator is used to determine the level of carbon dioxide in photosynthesis or respiration. The color for hydrogen carbon indicator is orange or red. When the level of carbon dioxide increases, the color will change from orange to yellow. But when the color of carbon dioxide decreases, the color will change to purple. And because the plant here is undergoing photosynthesis, because the plant is being exposed to light, that means carbon dioxide level in that tube will be lowered because the plant is using all the carbon dioxide. That means the color will change from orange to purple. That means the correct option for question 11 is option C. For question 12, certain factors are needed for photosynthesis. If a factor is in short supply, it limits the rate of photosynthesis. Which of these could be limiting factors? All right. The factors here, out of the one listed here, that the plant require for the plant to carry out photosynthesis are carbon dioxide and light intensity. A plant does not require oxygen for photosynthesis. A plant only gives out oxygen. That means the correct option for question 12 will be option B, 1 and 3. Moving to question 13, the hemoglobin concentration in the blood of a person is 80 grams per dm cube. The accepted normal concentration is 120 grams per dm cube or above. Which substance may be lacking in their diet? That means if the level of hemoglobin is lower, it means that iron is deficient in that person's diet or is not in adequate supply, because iron helps in production of red blood cells or in particular production of hemoglobin. That means the answer there, the correct option there is option D for question 13. Question 14, which statement about physical digestion is correct? The correct option there is option A. It increases the surface area of food. Question 15, which statement describes the effect of atmospheric humidity on the rate of transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water vapor through the area part of plants. And there are factors that can actually speed up or affect generally the rate of transpiration. One of the factors is humidity. When you have high humidity, the rate of transpiration will be reduced. When you have low humidity, the rate of transpiration will be increased. Another factor that affects transpiration is wind speed. When you have high wind speed or a faster rate of speed of wind, the rate of transpiration also will be increased. All right, that means for question 15, the correct option there is option A, which is in high humidity, the transpiration rate is high. Apologies. The answer there will be in low humidity, the rate of transpiration is high because there's rapid division of water vapor through stomata. That's option C for question 15. Moving to the next question. For question 16, sucrose and amino acid move around a plant from sources to sinks. Which row shows the sources and sinks? Now, the correct option there is option A. Root cortex can act as both source and sink. Xylem is neither because xylem just acts as a transport medium, while palisade mesophyte that's found in the leaf will act as the source in that question. For question 17, which statement describe how the structures in the circulatory system function? We have a muscular pump to push blood into the vessel, that's correct, that's the heart. Valves to ensure a one-way blood flow, that's correct. Valves are in the heart and also in the veins. Veins to take blood away from the heart, that is wrong. Veins take blood into the heart. And vessels to return blood to the heart. Definitely vessels also return blood to the heart. That means the correct option there will be option B, 1, 2, and 4 for question 17. 1, 2, and 4. Moving to question 18 now. The diagram shows a section through the heart. Which part is the septum? For the question here, the septum is the one that separates the left side from the right side of the heart. And that is option C. That is septum. For question 19, the cholera bacterium toxin causes dehydration and loss of salt from the blood in humans. Which statement explains the reason for this? The correct option there is option C, because chloride ions that are secreted into the small intestine will make the blood to have a high water potential, and that will make water to move by osmosis from the blood into the small intestine, which will lead to diarrhea in the person that is suffering from it. Now for question 20, during inspiration, the presence listed take place. That means P, volume of the thorax increases. Q, air rushes into the lungs. R, pressure in the thorax decreases. S, external intercostal muscles contract. And T, diaphragm moves down, ribs move upwards and outwards. The correct option there is option B, which is S, T, P, R, and Q. For question 21, in the chemical equation for anaerobic respiration in yeast, the numbers have been replaced by the letters W, X, Y, and Z. Which number is Z? In anaerobic respiration in yeast, the equation is C6H12O6, giving us arrow 2C2H5OH plus 2CO2. All right, from there, we know that Z is meant to be 5. That's option B. 22, a student measured their oxygen consumption before, during, and after exercise. Their result are shown in the graph. At which time is the oxygen depth being removed? Now, the time when oxygen depth is being removed is when the athletes are stopped exercising or still stop exercising, all right? And there's been accumulation of lactic acid that needs to be broken down. And that's when you have the oxygen depth being removed, okay? And that is when the limit is between 15 and 20 minutes from the graph. As you can see from the graph here, after exercise, you have between 15 and 20 minutes. That is when the oxygen depth is being removed. For 23, which row shows where glucose will be found in the body of a healthy human after eating a meal? After eating a meal, definitely there will be glucose in the renal artery because that is the blood vessel that takes blood to the kidney. There will also be glucose in the renal vein because during filtration, glucose is still retained in the blood. Urea, excess salt will be the one that will be filtered from the blood. Glomerulus also will contain glucose because that is where the blood is being filtered. For nephron, now some section of the nephron will also contain glucose. Okay, where some parts will not have glucose. The parts that are closer to the collecting duct and the ureter will not have glucose. And lastly, the ureter will not have glucose because that is the tube that connects the kidneys to the urinary bladder, will not have glucose, except if the person is having diabetes, which is an abnormal case. That means for question 23, the correct option there is option C, 23. Moving to question 24. The event listed involve neurotransmitter molecules at the synapse. 1, they bind with the receptor proteins. 2, they diffuse across the synaptic gap. 3, they enter the synaptic gap. And 4, they are released from the vesicles. What is the sequence of events that occur when an impulse arrives at the synapse? All right, for question 24, the correct option there is option D, because the neurotransmitters and the first neuron, the vesicles are released into the empty space, the synapse, and the neurotransmitters will be released, will diffuse across the synapse, and in the other neuron, there are receptors that receive the vesicles so that they can bridge that gap in the reflex arc. Now, going to question 25, what occurs during accommodation to focus on distant object? Now, accommodation is the ability of the eye to adjust its focal length in order to view both far and near object. All right, and for that to happen, when the object is far, the lens will get thinner. All right, when the lens gets thinner, the ciliary muscle will relax. And when ciliary muscle relaxes, the suspended ligaments will tighten because the two muscles are antagonistic muscles. All right, and that means the answer will be option B for question 25. For 26, what is the correct statement about auxin in shoots? Auxin is a growth hormone in plants, okay, and is produced from the tip of the shoot of plants, but it diffuses to the shaded part or the darker part of the shoot of the plant so that the that part can get longer, can experience more cell division so that they can bend towards the direction of light. All right, that means for question 26, the correct option there is option D. All right, it stimulates cell elongation. For 27, what is the correct statement about antibiotics? All right, now bacteria can become resistant to antibiotics due to natural selection. That's option B for 27. For 28, potatoes are stem tubers. A tuber can be placed in the ground to grow into another plant, which can grow many more tubers. The diploid number of the potato plant is 24. How many chromosomes will be there in the cells of the stem, the leaf, and the pollen? Now, the stem is the part of the plant that has somatic cells. The leaf also has somatic cells, while the pollen contains reproductive cell. That means for the stem and leaf, they're going to have diploid number of chromosome, while the pollen will have haploid number of chromosomes, which is half of the diploid number. That means for the stem, we're going to have 24 chromosomes. For the leaf, 24 chromosomes, while the pollen we have 12. Then the answer is option A for 28. For 29, which rule about asexual reproduction is correct? For sexual reproduction, number of parents is 1, and also the offspring will be identical to the parents. That's yes. And offspring do not necessarily have to be identical to each other. And for question 29, the correct option there is option B for 29, which and it's necessarily not to be identical, but it can also be identical. That means for number of parents is 1, offspring will be identical to the parent, and offspring will be identical to each other. For question 30, the statement describe how a protein is made. mRNA passes through a ribosome. mRNA molecule can carry a copy of the gene to the cytoplasm. The gene coding for the protein is copied in the nucleus. Ribosome assemble amino acid into protein. What is the order of statements that describe how protein is made? All right. And for that question 30, the correct option there is option D for question 30. That's option D. That is 3, 2, 1, and 4. For 31, which parent could produce offspring with blood group O? Now, blood group O is a recessive allele in blood, in ABO blood grouping. All right. That means if a parent that has blood group A and B marry each other, they can actually give birth to a child with blood group O. That means the correct option there will be option A, which is heterozygous father with blood group A, that is AO, and heterozygous mother with blood group B, that would be BO. When they are crossbred together, all right, it will give us this. If you cross these two together, I'm trying to use Punnett square to make it easier here. If you have the father, that is A, That means A will be AO. And we have the mother, which is B, and B will be BO. If the two of them are crossed, A and B will give us AP. That means the couple can give birth to a child with blood group AB. B and O will be BO. That means that's blood group B. A and O will be AO. That's blood group A. And the last one, O and O will be blood group O. OO. That's why the answer is option A for question 31. For 32, the diagram shows the inheritance of albinism in one family. Albinism is an inherited condition caused by a recessive allele. Which individual must be heterozygous for this condition? Okay, now we already know that albinism is a recessive allele. That means for these two, this is unaffected female and this unaffected male. And albinism is a sex-linked trait. That means for the female, it will be X, X, without any trait of albinism. And for the male, it will be X, Y, no trait of albinism also. All right, for this male with albinism, it will be X, C, Y, while this one will be X, X. For them to have a male that does not have albinism, XY. While for this one, for these two, to be able to have a female that has albinism, it means that two of them, this is X, Y, while this one is X carrier X. All right, that means the ones that are heterozygous for this condition will be 5, 6, and 7. 5, 6, and 7. Moving to question 33. Which term is a genetic change? A sudden change in the genetic makeup of organism is known as mutation. And that's option C for question 33. For 34, which adaptation may be present in a xerophyte? Xerophytes are plants that are found in dry areas when there's little or no water. All right. And for plants like that, they need to conserve water. That means the correct option here would be stomata hairs and the leaves are rolled up. Some of them don't have leaves at all. For 35, the diagram shows energy flow from the sun through a food chain and into the environment. What is the form of energy for each numbered arrow? For sun to plant, that will be light energy. That's for one. While from animal to animal, that would be chemical energy, whereas food. I mean, the correct option is option C for question 35. Option C. For question 36, a few yeast cells were placed in a container of nutrient solution. The graph shows how the population size changed over time. Which row shows when reproduction rate was greater than the death rate for the numbered faces on the graph? That means if for the reproduction rate to be greater than death rate, that means there should be an increased population size. Okay, that means the one that experienced reproduction rate greater than death rate will be 1, 2. All right, that is the one that has an increase in population. That's an increase in population for 1 and 2 for question 34. Sorry, 36, I mean. While for 4, that is the death rate. That is the death phase, I mean. At that stage, the number of deaths will be higher than number of new cells being produced. All right. While for 3, 3 is the stationary phase. That means the number of death rates and the reproduction rates will be the same at that point. That means the correct option for 36 is option B. For 37, the number of Atlantic bluefin tuna fish found in the Atlantic Ocean has significantly increased in the last 50 years. Which method will make the biggest improvement in conservation of tuna fish stocks? All right. And the correct option for 37 will be option C. That means introducing fishing quotas. That means there's a regulation to how the fish is being harvested or hunted. For 38, the bloodworm is an organism that is found in heavily polluted water. The diagram shows where raw sewage flows into a river. Where will there be fewest bloodworms? That means where we have fewest bloodworms, where the water is very clean, okay? And that should be at point A because that is just where the water is starting, okay? The debt or the sewage was introduced just after A. And for question 39, the diagram shows a bacterial cell. Which part is useful in genetic modification? And that is the plasmid, which is option D. That's what is useful in genetic modification to form recombinant plasmid. And the last question for question 40, which statement about genetic modification is correct? All right, and the correct option for question 40 is option C. It produces a new combination of genes. All right, that would be a convenient point where I'll be stopping the review of this paper 2 for today. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best in your exam. Bye.